YouTube. So, let's do 4 tips to connect with deity. Number 1, look at yourself. Take a minute and look at all the aspects that you hold. What are the things that you love? What are the things that naturally are being drawn to you? What are the things that you naturally gravitate towards? Do you like grit and dark and bones and all that darkness and fun? Or are you more of the, I like the light and the white and the airy and the angel-esque feeling of some things? Figure out what that is. What are your things you're drawn to? Is there an animal you've always kind of liked? Is there a certain trait in yourself that you find that you really like about yourself? What is something that really pulls you in? You go, yeah, no, that's me. Write them all down. Figure out what traits you have already so that you know what traits you should maybe seek out in a deity. Number 2, listen. See what's going on around you. Looking back after thinking of Persephone and Loki, I realized that in a lot of ways they were trying to get a hold of me. They were already trying to connect with me as much as possible. They were reaching out in weird ways. In some ways that I didn't even realize before. I knew with Persephone how much I love change, and I love the balance and the ever-flowing, and she was clearly trying to reach out with me with certain flower smells. And Loki, he kept popping up the minute I was interested in finding a deity that had a certain type of divine masculinity. He had no problem popping up, but I had to look for that first. But he was reaching out beforehand, so see what signs are already falling around you. Is there something that is making you pause that keeps popping up? Is there something that is constantly kind of like tapping you on the shoulder, making you have the shivers? What is a little something that is just making itself known to you? And if you know that, then research what the associations are with that animal. Maybe it's a deity trying to reach out. Maybe it's a deity trying to reach out with that flower or that thing that keeps happening all the time. What is it? Something like that. Number 3. Just research. If there's a particular deity that you were like, you know what, that one sounds interesting. I like the Norse god Hel. Or, you know, Thor has always captured my attention. Or maybe you're just like, you know what, that Loki seems interesting for this reason or whatever else. Look at their myths. Look at them. See if something vibes right for you. The amount of times when I was going through trying to find my patron, I would research a deity and then I would go, ooh, that's interesting. There was the chaos deity of the Greek gods. One of Hera's daughters. I cannot remember her name at the moment, but there's a bunch of deities like that where I'm like, ooh, that sounds interesting. And suddenly I'm like, no, that one thing doesn't vibe right. Hades I researched into, and that's when I suddenly realized, oh, actually I don't want this like stringent life and death strict order thing, because that's actually not my vibe. I had to know what actual thing was a part of his mythos. Doing that research helps you better to narrow down in some respects, and even if you haven't found anything that you are immediately drawn to or no one's trying to call out to you in a major sign, then sometimes the best thing is just to flat out do the mundane research and see who's great and who you want to work with, and then start reaching out to them and go from there. Number 4, meditate. Take a minute, clear your mind, and just see what pops up. What images, what things start flashing in your head when you're quiet, when you're silent, when you're trying to just take stock of the world around you? What pops into your mind right away? What is something that draws you in? Those are the things that end up being the signs, the signals, you know, with my whole crocodile ordeal and how I don't even know how that's going to end up. I realized that, oh, I need to see what this means, because those signs kept popping up when I'm quiet, when I'm sleeping, when I'm dreaming and going off into different things, when I am not thinking of anything else, when I'm just kind of going through life. Crocodiles appear again and again and again. So what does that mean? What is that doing? It is clearly, for me, something is reaching out. So what is that for you? When you are silent, when you are quiet in the dream world, in the meditation, when you're just sitting quietly and not having your mind focus on the 20,000 things you have to do that day, what is it that you're trying to focus on? And then I think the honest part too with connecting to number 5 is, if it doesn't feel right, don't feel right. Like, listen to your instincts at most. That's like the ultimate one that I think goes with every part of witchcraft, but especially with deity. I kept trying to struggle through the Hades thing. I felt like there was a test or something I had to mask. And maybe there are some tests, you know, there was definitely a bit of a trial period with each of my deities in some respects, some for me and also some for them, where they're like, are you serious about this? And I was like, I think I'm serious. Are you serious? I had to clarify that with them. I had to make sure. So do that. Figure out what it is that you need to get done. And, you know, go by instinct. If a candle isn't lighting and that seems weird to you as you try to contact a deity, acknowledge that. If you're getting like silence on the other end, if you feel like you're getting nowhere, if you feel like it's a struggle, if you feel like it's dying off in a sense and there's like just not a good connection there, listen to that. Maybe that's as simple as it is. I think we give way too much credence at times to having to figure stuff out and the mysticism of things. Sometimes things are very just black and white instinctual with our decisions. We don't have to decide something by, you know, a great divine sign that has come down to us. Sometimes it's just simple like, yeah, it just doesn't feel right, or this feels right. I want to work with this person. I want to work with this deity and connect with them on a higher level if I can. And number 6, when connecting with deity, if they don't appear how you expect them to, don't let that worry you. Or don't worry about others talking about their appearance. For me, Persephone appeared with bright eyes that changed colors. She had the changing seasons held within her eyes. And she loved the flowers and everything else. She also disappears from me on a pretty regular basis. I pretty much have only seen her on the top side, flower maiden aspect, little bits of the queen of the underworld. Maybe part of that is because I'm just not ready for that amount of power. Maybe it's because she doesn't think that's necessary for me to be shown. But other people have seen her in different ways. Loki is the same thing. Loki appears to me in many different forms all the time. I always kind of know it's him by his grin, but he's constantly changing and shape-shifting. That's kind of one of his things, is the shape-shifting. But if someone appears to you a little bit differently, remember that what you're working with, whether it's an archetype or you're of the polytheistic truth in your world, these are gods you're dealing with. These are deities. They're not necessarily going to appear as everyone else would, because whether it's from your own projection, your own archetype and working through it that you're dealing with, or because you have the belief that these are outside things connecting you, these aren't just one rendition of something. If it is something that is above humanity, it's not going to be expressed exactly how each human would have it seen. It's going to show itself in the best way that it seems possible for that lesson or that human to pick up on. They are of higher intelligence than us if you're of that subscription. They're of higher, you know, guidance in some levels. So they're going to be able to change and shift things around. So don't be freaked out or, you know, have a negative connotation if you're like, oh, well, this person says Loki only appears this way, and he didn't appear that way for me. Fine, who cares? He appeared this way for you. Especially when it comes to the ones that are a little more playful. Any god that has any sort of playful aspect to them, they're probably not going to appear exactly the same way that you would expect them to. And curb your expectations. You know, if it's something is happening that is not within the storyline or the realm, that's okay. You know, I question Persephone's myth a lot, and I never get a solid answer, which I thought was interesting. I was almost expecting an answer of like, no, I met my husband and I love him. I wasn't kidnapped by him. I was expecting that answer, and she just looked me flat in the face and said, what does it matter what the answer is? She was already challenging me in that respect. Like, I didn't have to worry about what her answer was. Deity is going to challenge you. Deity it is there to grow. It is a relationship that'll really cement and make you grow, whether you look at through archetypes or something else. Like, it is something pretty great to really look at yourself with. So you have to allow for the unexpected to happen. Allow for it to kind of enter in and see what's going to make a mess of it. Anyway, I hope those tips help you out. Leave other tips down below if you know some great things about connecting with deity. I make new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I am on the Instagrams, the Facebooks, and the Twitters now, all at Shadow Harvest. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.